Have you ever prayed for something, really prayed for it with everything you had, only to be met with, well, silence? It's a tough spot to be in, and it's something a lot of people of faith have to wrestle with. But what if the reason for that silence isn't what we've always been told? Today, we're going to dig into a theological perspective that suggests maybe, just maybe, we've been misreading the instructions all along.
Look, prayer is as old as faith itself. It's woven into the very fabric of human history. But what if the way a lot of us do it is based on a huge misunderstanding? What if some of the promises we're holding onto so tightly were actually meant for someone else in a totally different time?
You know, C.R. Stam just hits the nail on the head here. It's this exact problem, this gap between the incredible promises we read and the reality of our daily lives that can really shake a person's faith. So the big question is, why is that disconnect there in the first place?
So why that disconnect? It's the question that's caused so much doubt and frustration for so many people. But the sources we're looking at today, they offer a really specific, almost architectural answer to this ancient problem.
Okay, first up, let's unpack what we're calling the prayer paradox. Because before we can really appreciate the solution that's being proposed, we've got to understand the sheer scale of this apparent contradiction between what we believe and what we experience.
Think about it on a global scale for a second. As the writer George Adair points out, there have been these massive worldwide days of prayer for peace, with millions of people taking part, only for us to turn on the news and see more conflict, not less. It kind of forces you to ask a really tough question. Does prayer just not work?
And this is where Adair drops a bombshell of an idea. The problem isn't that prayer is broken, it's that our whole idea of what it's for is wrong. According to this viewpoint, prayer was never meant to be a cosmic vending machine where we try to get God to change his mind and give us what we want.
So, if prayer isn't about changing God's mind, where in the world did we get that idea? Well, this brings us to the absolute core of the argument, and it's all about how we read the Bible. It's about, reading the fine print.
And the key that unlocks this whole thing is a concept called dispensationalism. Now, that's a big word, but the idea is pretty simple. It says you can't just open the Bible to a random page and assume every single sentence applies directly to you right now. You have to ask, who's talking, who are they talking to, and what's the context? What dispensation or time period is this happening in?
This quote from F.H. Robinson sums it up perfectly. The whole Bible is for our learning and benefit, absolutely. But not all of it is written directly to us. It's kind of like reading someone else's mail. You can learn a lot from it, but you can't go to the bank and cash their check.
And right here, this is where it all clicks into place. Just look at these two verses. On the left, in the Gospel of Matthew, you have this mind-blowing promise. Whatever you ask for in prayer, believing, you will receive. Wow. But then you flip over to Paul's letter to the Romans, and you get a totally different picture. We don't even know what we should pray for. A dispensational view says these aren't contradictions. They're just addressed to two different groups under two different programs. The one on the left, for Israel and its earthly kingdom program. The one on the right, that's for us, today.
So why the totally different instructions? Well, this viewpoint holds that there was a massive, fundamental shift in God's program for humanity right in the middle of the story. The timeline, according to this view, looks something like this. God's main prophetic program was all about the nation of Israel and setting up a literal kingdom on earth. But when Israel, as a nation, rejected its Messiah, that whole program was put on pause. Then, God kicked off something new, something that was a secret until then, called the dispensation of grace, which was revealed through the Apostle Paul.
So here's the bottom line. When believers today reach back and try to claim promises that were specifically made to Israel under that old kingdom program, the ask for whatever you want kind of promises, it's bound to lead to confusion and disappointment. It's like trying to play a new game with an old expired set of rules.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? Does that mean we just stop praying? No, not at all. This viewpoint doesn't cancel prayer. It completely redefines it. It becomes less like a transaction and more like a vital, natural function, like breathing.
And this redefinition starts with the original language. This is fascinating. The linguist George Lampsa points out that the Aramaic word for prayer, slotha, also means adjustment. Just let that sink in for a second. Prayer isn't about trying to adjust God's will to match ours. It's about adjusting our will to align with His. It flips the whole thing on its head.
This leads us to another incredible metaphor. This one from the theologian E.W. Bullinger. He says prayer is like breathing. Think about it. You don't schedule time to breathe. You just do it. It's both the sign that you're alive and the very thing that keeps you alive.
In this view, prayer is exactly that for our spiritual life. It's a constant, natural state of being.
So what does this actually look like in our day-to-day lives? Well, it means it's less about setting aside prayer time to talk at God, and much more about living in this constant state of communion with God, just recognizing His presence in every single moment.
And you know what else changes? The whole tone. It shifts away from these stuffy, formal petitions and becomes the simple, trusting cry of a child to their father. That word Abba is an Aramaic term of deep, personal affection. It's basically the equivalent of a little kid crying out, "Daddy." It's all about relationship, not ritual.
All right, so let's get practical. What's the real-world outcome of this new way of thinking? If we're not just handing God our wish list anymore, then what's the actual goal? What's the point?
While the Apostle Paul gives us a whole new blueprint in his letter to the Philippians, he says, yes, go ahead and make your requests known to God. Tell Him what's on your heart, and do it with a thankful spirit. But here's the kicker. Notice the guaranteed result. The promise isn't that you'll get what you asked for. The promise, the guarantee, is peace. A peace that doesn't even make sense.
And that right there is the fundamental shift. The whole purpose of prayer changes. It's no longer about trying to manipulate our external circumstances to be exactly how we want them. Instead, it becomes the way we receive an internal stability and a profound peace, no matter what our circumstances look like.
Which brings us full circle. In this framework, an unchanging God isn't a frustrating problem. He's the ultimate source of our security. I mean, if God could be swayed back and forth by billions of different conflicting prayers, the universe would be absolute chaos. His steadfast, sovereign nature is what gives us true rest.
So that leaves us with one last thought to really chew on. If the measure of a successful prayer isn't a changed situation, but a changed heart, a heart that's guarded by a deep, lasting peace, how does that completely transform the way we face all the uncertainty and anxiety of life? It kind of changes everything, doesn't it?